Hello, my bookish darlings. I was one of the Brandon Sanderson fans who bought the 4 ebooks for $40 in his Kickstarter campaign, and I've just read the second secret book. Who am I? I am the BookTube goddess, the #1 drag queen booktuber on YouTube. Brandon Sanderson was secretly subject to a hit piece in Wired magazine of all places, and there are tons of people who covered it. Personally, I think it felt like some sort of sour grapes over the Kickstarter that broke all sorts of records and raised $40 million. Anyway, I like Sanderson's books. I'm not a super fan, I wouldn't say that, but I did purchase his debut book, Elantris, when it was first published and have kept up with him. I was a big fan of the Mistborn trilogy, not so much of the subsequent Mistborn books, but I recommend the original trilogy, and I am quite enjoying Sanderson's magnum opus, the Stormlight Archives. But anyway, I got the ebooks on the Kickstarter, and the second secret book has just been released, so I put together 10 reasons to read or not read the Frugal Wizard's Handbook for Surviving Medieval England. Did anyone else think of the Frugal Gourmet? By the way, I actually recommend you not watch this video if you haven't read the book yet and you're planning to, because it's better just to go into the book cold without knowing anything about it. Since the novel is about a guy that wakes up with no knowledge of where he is or what's going on, any discussion about this book is going to contain spoilers, so you've been warned. But if you've already read the book or are on the fence and don't care about some small spoilers, please continue watching. So, without further ado...
Number 10. Better than Tress.
If you haven't seen my review of Tress of the Emerald Sea, you can click it up here if you're interested. I liked Tress, but I didn't think the humor hit for me all the time and felt the anachronisms were a little off-putting, though I appreciated it was another entry into Sanderson's Cosmere universe. But I have to tell you, I thought The Frugal Wizard was a much more entertaining read than Tress. Perhaps because Sanderson wasn't beholden to Cosmere, it felt a lot more free-flowing, and if you couldn't tell from the title, The Frugal Wizard's Handbook for Surviving Medieval England, it was meant to be humorous, and I think the humor landed at least a lot more than Tress. If you thought Tress was good, I think you will really like Frugal Wizard. If you did not like Tress, maybe you still want to give this one a try.
Number 9. It is science fiction.
You may think from the title that this is a fantasy. At least I certainly did, because in the title it says it's about a wizard and it's set in medieval England. Though it has all the hallmarks of a portal fantasy, instead of a magic portal, we have a futuristic machine that opens doorways to other quantum realities. And of course, there are other things that firmly place it in the science fiction genre. It reminded me a lot of Christopher Stasheff's Warlock series about a space traveler who explores low-tech worlds and is mistaken for a wizard. His companion is, of course, an epileptic robot. The first book in the series is The Warlock in Spite of Himself, which has a similar whimsical feel to Sanderson's title. And by the way, I fully recommend the Christopher Stasheff series.
Number 8. It is Anglocentric.
Okay, this actually can be a negative, but you know right off from the title, The Frugal Wizard's Handbook for Surviving Medieval England, this is going to be an Anglocentric setting. The premise is that a futuristic travel agency sells alternate dimensions to people, and they can act like great wizards because of their advanced high tech. And there is sort of a nod to cultural appropriation with bans against going to the Americas or other non-European areas and being saviors, not of that culture. But here's the thing that really troubled me that was never addressed. There is no prime directive. You can travel to these alternate versions of England and completely mess with the people there. And there are no consequences, as if the people there aren't real people. So if you are concerned about indigenous people and other cultures, why does it matter what you do in this one geographic area? You kind of just have to forget this whole dimensional travel agency setup, because it's frankly such an evil enterprise. No matter how you cut it, it's hard to excuse it. But if you just forget about all that, you can enjoy the whimsical ride of the story. So take that for what you will.
Number 7. There is romance.
There is a slow-building romance in the story, and you know I generally have been a little shy on romance after the Twilight craze injected over-the-top romance subplots and tropes into so many YA novels that have somehow creeped into adult novels. But in Frugal Wizard, I didn't mind the romance. It was sweet, logical, and rated G like all of Sanderson's romance subplots. If you like big sweeping romances with in-your-face tropes, this may not be the book for you, but then again, you probably aren't reading Sanderson for romance stories to begin with.
Number 6. The world building.
Sanderson is known for his world building and development of magic systems. But in this case, the world building is science fiction based. Of course, the whole dimensional travel thing is based on the concept of many worlds, and that's always fun. But what I love the most are the healing nanites that travel through everyone from the future's bloodstream, and you can tap into a graphical user interface. There's body modifications, and all of that tech has been embedded in our main character, some of which doesn't work because of reasons. I thought it was all a pretty clever gimmick to give our hero an edge to make him seem superhuman, at least when compared to those around him.
Number 5. The humor works.
One of the issues for me with Tress was I didn't find that the humor always hit. In Frugal Wizard, I never really had that much of a problem. In fact, I thought the humor, which was mostly situational and character-driven, worked really well for me. And I love the interludes, which were pages out of a manual, which I'll talk about later. If you're looking for whimsy and humor, look no more.
Number 4. The illustrations.
The illustrations of Steve Argyle are hilarious. And I'm talking about the illustrations in the margins, though the full color pictures are great too. If you got the ebook version like I did, go ahead and also make sure to download the PDF version where you can appreciate the artwork more. What's great about the illustrations in the margins is that they are like little funny cartoon panels telling other funny little stories. In fact, I'd even recommend you get the physical version, hardback or paperback, so you can appreciate the artwork even more.
Number 3. White Room Syndrome.
White Room Syndrome. This may be a plus or minus, but White Room Syndrome means the story opens with the character not knowing what's going on around him, or her, or them, and it's usually discussed by writing teachers as something to be avoided and fixed. But in the afterword, Sanderson specifically said he wanted to write a White Room story, and as kind of a jab to writing instructors out there, he titled Part 1, The White Room. Here, our main character wakes up or comes to consciousness, remembering nothing about who he is, not even remembering his name. So, the reader, like the main character, is a bit lost in trying to find their footing. I personally thought it worked well and adds mystery as we discover who the main character is, along with the main character as he struggles to remember, well, anything.
Number 2. The character arc.
The character arc was very well done. The main character's name, once he enters the medieval parallel dimension, is Runian, though he has another name in the real world. As I said before, he has no memory of who he is, doesn't even know his name, doesn't know what his occupation was. What's really neat about this is how he tries to fill in the holes of what sort of man he is as the story unfolds based on how he figures things out. Where he ends up is nowhere near where he started, and I thought it was a lot of fun to get there. I will say, however, the one negative I found was when he starts questioning himself over and over again, and in one chapter it got really painful. It just seemed to drag on and on. But other than that one negative, which I only found in one chapter, there's mostly only positive in regards to Runian's growth. And like I said, it's so much fun figuring out with the character as he remembers what type of person he is.
Number 1. The Interludes.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but the number one reason to read The Frugal Wizard are the interludes. Normally, I'm not a big fan of interludes because they take you out of the story, but in this case, they were so much fun and funny. Basically, the only thing that Runian has brought with him in this dimension is a manual, but the manual has been burnt and ripped apart and scattered across the land, so one of his goals is to collect the pages, and we get treated to excerpts from the handbook. It is part parody, part satire, part social commentary, and I can't believe I ended up looking forward to when these interludes came up. So there are my 10 reasons to read or not read The Frugal Wizard's Handbook for Surviving Medieval England. I felt it was fast-paced, except for that one chapter where Runian gets so self-reflective, but I found myself not able to put the book down and ended up ripping through it. Again, I thought it was better than Tress of the Emerald Sea, and it certainly gets my blessing. But I want to know what you think. Have you read The Frugal Wizard? Do you want to? Let me know down in the comments. Now, I'm really curious what the next 2 secret novels are because both Frugal Wizard and Tress felt like a departure from the epic fantasy we normally get from Sanderson. It makes me wonder if these works are all experimental. I know Sanderson has dabbled with humor in his Evil Librarian middle grade series, and I know he's a huge fan of Terry Pratchett. So will we get more of the same with the next 2 secret books? I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Until we meet again, may all the books you read be blessed.